everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Draft Talk podcast, brought to you by the guys at 99yards.com. As you will know, the Draft Talk team are fully immersed in all things Senior Bowl this week. All the information on the players to look out for is available on the website, 99yards.com, on Twitter at 99yards, and on our podcast and YouTube channels. However, today we have something a little bit different for you. I'm glad to be joined by Adam Petrus from Zebra Technologies, the exclusive player and ball tracking provider for the Senior Bowl. Welcome, Adam.
Stuart, thanks for having me. Great to be with you.
Good. So for those of you who don't know, Adam, tell us a little bit about Zebra Technologies and what their role at the Senior Bowl is.
Yeah, so Zebra Technologies is a global technology solution company, and we've been in the business for over 50 years, and we are a global leader in inventory management tracking and asset tracking. And that's where this all started, with our work in transportation, warehouse logistics, retail, quick serve restaurants, healthcare, and then into the world of sports and entertainment. And very likely your listeners have come across Zebra Technology hardware and solutions in your everyday life and probably just didn't realize it. But you would see us at your potential grocery stores, boutiques. We build rugged devices for the enterprise for handheld scanning, point of sale checkout, as well as getting on and off, airplanes. And then, of course, the real thing for us here that tied us to the football world in American football here was what we were doing for inventory management and tracking solutions of assets. So in large warehouses, we used RFID technology or UWB, ultra wideband technology, and that allowed to give real-time locationing information. And so the NFL wanted to be able to track their most, precious assets, which are the players and the football itself. So in 2014, we came into the NFL and we outfitted 2 stadiums. And then in 2015, we outfitted every NFL stadium to then eventually include the international series with Wembley, Tottenham. Now we're in Mexico City, as well as this year, Munich in Germany.
Awesome. So obviously a lot of the guys now who are getting into the NFL and are more into it, we see a lot of this fans of data and tracking and all this stuff. It's kind of working its way much more into the general, even on the play-by-play on the TV and stuff.
That's right.
As well. So tell us about some of the key performance metrics that, particularly at the Senior Bowl, that you're looking to drive for the coaches.
Yeah, so what we're looking to do here specifically at the Senior Bowl and what we do for the NFL as far as the next gen stats is we're tracking every player of every single play in every single game throughout the NFL. And what's important about that is you can't create the next generation of statistics if you're not tracking every player's movement, including the ball. And so in 2017, we added the chip to the football, which allows us to, look at those interesting metrics and data points as far as velocity, initial airspeed, revolutions in the rotation of the spin rate. So we're doing some really neat capturing of data where you can compare, Tom Brady to Aaron Rodgers and look at the difference in their ability to spin it. And then, of course, what we're doing at the Senior Bowl is the same technology that we use with the NFL, and we're giving a great platform for these players who are going to, enter into the NFL draft here in 2023, a real opportunity to showcase their skill sets. And so certainly, Stuart, we're going to be looking at, speed, max sustained speed. How long are they able to run for that max speed? And, we've seen some really great speeds so far here, even the last 2 days of practice where we've got players going at, 21.75 miles per hour for the max speed, sustained for 5 yards. That's NFL caliber speed right there. And we're also looking at deacceleration, the ability for someone to, start, stop, and how quick can they turn on a dime, as we might say, and break themselves off defensive coverage, or for a defensive back to be able to, make that plant and then react to the ball. And so these are some of those excellent statistics that allow the players who are out here practicing today and all week and then into the game on Saturday, the opportunity to showcase them. But let's not forget about the big men too, offensive line, defensive line, their ability to react to the snap. How quick can they get to the quarterback and make a sack? Right. So those are some of the neat things we're doing. We're tracking their movement here on the practice field, and we've got stats up on the scoreboard, and we have a public facing site we'll want to share with you to make sure all your listeners can go and take a look at how these all-star college athletes are preparing themselves the week of practice and then getting ready for the combine and then eventually the NFL draft.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. obviously you guys are providing the technology for the Senior Bowl, but you said for the last 8-9 years you've been providing tracking stuff for at the NFL level as well. Tell us a little bit about kind of your partnership with the NFL level and how that's kind of used.
Yeah, so it's been an excellent partnership with the NFL. We've continued to evolve together, starting in 2014. We're currently in our 9th season with the NFL. And it's, as I mentioned, it's now a global endeavor of the Next Gen Stats. And they have a great public facing site that's really telling some neat stories about the performance you see on the field and then bringing that quantitative data to show you just how impressive some of these athletes are when they're performing on the football field. So from the kicking, the punting to the reaction speed, time to sack, airspeed, velocity, the probability of completing plays. The Zebra story is that we're taking our hardware and we're able to capture that data. We can then simulcast it to the broadcast, and that's where they tell a lot of these neat stories. But, from one NFL play and even one play here, at the Senior Bowl, the NFL is able to take that, and there are 263 data points that they can take from just one single play. That's 11 on 11 athletes plus the ball, and you get so much data that you can take a look at it. Some might say there's some data overload, but the teams that are really good at this, because now we've seen every team hires and has a director of sports performance or director of sports science, and they're really breaking down that data, and they're also structuring practices of the players so that they can get maximum effort and optimal utilization of their athletes as they look at load management. How hard are we working you on Tuesday? How hard on Wednesday? Finding the balance to make sure that their performance on Thursday night, Sunday, or Monday is going to be optimal.
And I guess when the teams are, in a level playing field, that small margins that they can capture from that data, I guess, make all the difference on a.
Yeah, we used to say that some teams have a competitive advantage, but now that all teams get all teams data, the competition committee made that rule back in 2018. And so what we're really finding is that there are teams that are super users of data, and then there's other teams that aren't as advanced, and they're trying to figure out what are the important data points that we need to be looking at. And certainly, speed is always a big one, but there's other things that come to mind, and looking at balancing that workload to make sure that you're getting the most optimal performance. And the same thing goes with quarterback. How many times they're throwing the ball, how hard are they throwing that football. You want to make sure that your most valuable assets, the players, are going to be able to show up on game day and deliver at that high level.
And we've obviously seen kind of a lot of the high-profile draft analysts now talking in media about how technology is perhaps maybe overtaking some of the more traditional analytic methods. You talk about in the traditional people how they performed at for example, the combine, but now a lot of teams are using their in-game data because that the combine potentially is a false environment and it's not game speed and all these kind of things. So
very true.
So where do you kind of see the technology heading in the future, and what kind of things have you guys got in the pipeline?
And I'm glad you brought that up. And you look at the Senior Bowl here, for example. This is a great opportunity for these guys to showcase playing speed, right? Because you're right, the 40 at the combine is just a straight line, right? That's a track race. Doesn't necessarily mean that you can do that on the football field. That's just showing, okay, sure, potential in a very sterile environment. What we're doing out here is these guys have the opportunity to show actual playing speed. And we've got a great story from last year when Tariq Woolen, a defensive back, 6'2", converted wide receiver, was on press coverage on a wide receiver, and he got burned at the line. Let's call it that. He got burned, he got beat. And so the receiver darted out in front of him, was going to make a play. Tariq showed his catch-up speed, and he put on the jets, and he ended up setting the record for the fastest speed here since we've been tracking since 2018 for any athlete at the Senior Bowl. So what that demonstrated was the fact that he's got playing speed, and then he continued to run at very high speed. And we're seeing others doing the same thing here. So, if something were to happen between now and the combine, or somebody pulls a hamstring, but they have data here from the player tracking, the same system we're using in the NFL, that's going to get the attention of the scouts, the GMs, and the coaches. And it is a great thing. And I think overall in the college world here in NCAA in America, you're seeing more and more universities turning to player tracking solutions. We're partnered with a few universities, and then there's other styles of player tracking at different price points and budgets that even at the high school level has value as these kids get evaluated and make their way towards, college in the NFL. And I would say last point, with the combine, I think Troy Vincent, the executive football operations vice president, has talked about a revisioned combine where they want to incorporate the player tracking as well as, really adding more of real applicable, routes for receivers and drills that actually are performed by the players on the field itself.
That's awesome. You've given us so much insight into kind of what goes on behind the scenes these, because we see all these kind of things on the TV. Next Gen Stats says,
That's
and
right.
all this kind of stuff. And it's really interesting to kind of hear how that's been applied and how you guys have been involved in things as well. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you think our listeners would find really useful or really interesting?
Yeah, and I'll get with Christian and maybe we'll get you some stock photos, but just to give you an idea of what the actual RFID tag looks like, it's about the size of an American nickel, and it's almost about not quite a half-inch thick. Let me get up to the camera
here. Yeah, I can
here.
see that there. Yeah, cool.
And so it's got our branding on it here. And so these tags can last up to 2 years. And so for player tags, this essentially has a computer chip in here and plus a battery. So these tags will last 2 years. And we put these under the upper epaulet of the shoulder pads. And it's an almost indestructible casing. And so once we get these tags into the shoulder pads, they'll last for 2 seasons. And we can turn them on, we turn them off. We have every game day, we come in for a 1 p.m. kick. We come in at 7:30 in the morning. We activate, we turn these on, we make sure we have the active roster, and then we can see these players entering onto the field. And that's how we're able to track them through our 22 to 24 receivers that are pointed down. The field's calibrated. And so we capture that data with these tags here. And then when it comes to the football, the Duke, you've got the tag itself is a different form factor, and it only weighs about 3.3 grams, and it's located just on the opposite side of the NFL shield. And, the neat thing about this, and Wilson, of course, makes the football and their proprietary process of getting it embedded in there. It's a really cool thing in the sense that this football, essentially weighs the same that it did 15 years ago, between the bladder, the leather, the stitching. And so the quarterbacks, they're unimpeded as far as, they don't think about the technology. It's not interfering. And that's the number one aspect, of course, is that you have to have technology that's not going to, impact the performance from either the shoulder pads or inside the ball. You're on mute.
Yeah. Adam, thank you so much for giving up your time for us today, and hope you're having a really great time down in Mobile. Hopefully myself and the guys will get over to catch up with you soon, maybe next year's Senior Bowl. And yeah, just really want to thank you for doing this for us. It's been really interesting, and it's something that is maybe just a bit different from kind of the other content we're putting out about the players of the Senior Bowl. It's been really awesome for you to do that for us. So thanks very much.
Hey, no, the pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me on, and thanks to you and all your listeners for following American football and telling the good stories that are out there. I had the opportunity to go to 4 of the international series at Wembley over the last handful of years, and I got to say, you guys do a great job of coming out in force and being part of the energy. And I look forward to that for many years to come, and hopefully we'll see you next year here in Mobile.
And let us know when you're in London for a game. We'll try and catch you for a beer and show you around.
Absolutely, mate. Let's hit a pub or two and have a good time and talk some American football.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to Adam and everyone. Remember to check out the website, Twitter, our podcast, YouTube channel, all your draft needs. We'll be back soon as we start diving into mock drafts, our famous top 5s,
Yes.
all the info about the teams. Guys, thanks for listening.